right, guys, welcome back. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Last podcast was about Romans. Let's see, it was Romans chapter 5. We were talking about Abraham and being justified by faith, and we went through and kind of established I guess it's a way to read scripture or study scripture is anytime you run across the word therefore, which, if you're not reading King James or anything like that, you may not run across that word. But if you ever do, go back and try to discover, what went on before that. Because he's most of the time, especially like in the New Testament, the letters of Paul, when he says therefore, he's built up to this point, to this culmination, and he's trying to get across a point to you. So it really helps you to understand like where he is coming from to validate this point, because he's taking you on a journey, on a path. And a lot of times we just get to these, some of these scriptures that we are familiar with, but we don't understand what went on before he got to that point. So anyway, yeah, it never hurts to go back and realize who he is talking to, what context it is taking place in, all of those things that go before something, and try to discover, okay, this is the foundation before we actually get to this building, we'll say. So it's very important to establish some of those things. And so that's why we're taking the time. We're going back and trying to establish a foundation so that you can be built up and understand all these steps, and where it's really what I'm trying to do is strengthen your belief. Strengthen your faith and what you believe. And we're using all of these scriptures kind of in order, and we're just going slow. We try to go slow so that everybody can come on board and we can all be built up together. So with all of that being said, today we are looking at we're going backwards. Last time we talked about Romans 4 last time we talked about Romans 5, but today we're going to talk about Romans 4. We're backing up because in the first verse of chapter 5 it says therefore. So like I said, we're going backwards now. So we are going to start in the very first verse of chapter 4. So once again, it's a great idea to, if you have a chance, to go back and read these verses. I know a lot of times when we are listening to this, it may be in the car or something like that where you can't actually open the Bible and look at it, but it's always good to go back and look at these scriptures just to verify what is being said, that you are actually hearing scripture and that it is stated how I'm stating it. So here we go. I'm going to read Romans chapter 4 verse 1. It says, "What then shall we say that Abraham our father has found according to the flesh?" So this is a question. I know I'm going really slow, but sometimes we don't even stop when we get to a question. Most of us didn't even realize that what I just read was a question. It's like we really need to slow down. Okay, so he's saying, what did Abraham find in the flesh? Like, Abraham found something, and this is a pivotal point that is trying to be made. But he's like, what did Abraham find? That's the question. What did he find? Okay, so verse 2. "If Abraham was justified by works, he had something to boast about, but not before God. For what does the scripture say? Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. Now to him who works, the wages are not counted as grace, but as debt. But to him who does not work, but believes on him who justifies the ungodly, his faith is accounted for righteousness." Okay, so this last verse, which is verse 5, where it says, but to him who does not work, but believes on God who justifies the ungodly. That, this is one of these verses that I did not believe. Is like it's stated so plainly, but I for whatever reason, I think it's just our own mentality is to work in order to be seen as just or righteous or in right standings or in good standings, however you want to put it. I'll just say me. I don't want to loop anybody into it, but I think there's most of us. It's like we want to do good things so that, basically God is happy with our performance. And so, like this verse, it says, but to him, he's just saying, to this guy or girl or this person who does not work but just believes on God, he's like, that faith, just believing, that is what God accounts for righteousness. Like, righteousness is like that perfect standing before God. Like that, like this verse, it really took me a long time to sort out in my mind, because it goes against everything that I believe. I know that's weird, but it's like no, it's like the person who's working, they are the ones who should be justified in God's sight. Because it's like just this guy he says he just believes, like he just believes God, but he's not doing anything. He's not really, living like a Christian life, or however you want to say that. It's like he's not doing anything. Like how is he justified before God? Like that one really threw me for a loop. But that verse in verse 5 where it says, but to him who does not work but believes on God who justifies the ungodly. It's like, I didn't even believe that God justified the ungodly. I believe that God, he would see somebody in his good graces. Those were the godly people, not the ungodly. Like that goes against justice in my mind. It really bothered me for a long time. Like, it's like, no, God doesn't justify ungodly. He justifies godly people. Like, that's why we do the things that we do. That's why we live the way that we live, and all of these things. But this is the argument. Well, I shouldn't even say argument, because it's not really an argument. This is the point. This is the truth that the Apostle Paul is trying to get across to us, and he's using, the father of faith, the father of the Jewish nation. He's using Abraham as the example, and he says, hey guys, listen. He starts off, he says, what did Abraham find? Like, Abraham found something about being in the flesh that we need to find. And what Abraham found is that God justifies those who just believe. He justifies those who are ungodly, but yet they believe in God. They believe in his promise. Those are the people who are made righteous. So, like, how does this relate to us? Like, what do you do with these verses? Like, why does this matter? So here's the thing. Just like Abraham, like, he is called our father. Like, I don't know if anybody ever remembers these songs, but we in children's church is what we called it. Like, we'd all stand up and sing this song about Father Abraham. He had many sons, and then we'd swing your right arm. It was kind of a weird song, but anyway, it was a lot like Father Abraham had many sons, and then we'd all get up and dance, and it's like, we're one of the sons of Abraham, and it's like, I guess probably across the board, like if you're a Christian or associate with people of faith, and you know Abraham, you've heard of his name probably, and if it's universally accepted that he's our father. But it's like, I don't even think that we stop to address this or even think about, like, well, why is he our father? Like, what does that even mean? And so as we look into these scriptures, what I'm trying to get across is, like, there is a very distinct purpose and intent behind God using this man named Abraham, and the Apostle Paul using him to drive home his point about being justified by faith. And he's saying, guys, listen, Abraham was justified. He was seen as righteous before God long before the Ten Commandments were given. God saw him as righteous. And it wasn't because of what he did. It wasn't because of his works.